Hello and welcome to another sit down with Chris Gergen on the Convergence. It is good to have everybody back tonight. If you missed yesterday's show, I would encourage you to go and watch that. I'm going to do my very best to drop that link in the comments either during the show or after the show. Either way, if you have not seen last night's show, I encourage you to go watch it. It has been spread about pretty widely, and a lot of people have seen it. I've had a lot of feedback. I've had a few trolls come in and hit me, but that's the nature of the beast, and it's all good. Tonight we've got a special show. I've got my good friend Richard McQuarrie here with us tonight, and on tonight's show we're going to discuss the coming financial challenges of the WSRP. It's something I touched on last night, but I believe that it is a subject that warrants us having a little bit further conversation about it, because based on the comments that I'm reading online, I'm not seeing a whole lot of people actually getting this. I think that there's still a big delusion out there. We're going to talk about the probability of a Democrat supermajority and what that is going to look like if that happens. And then lastly, we're going to talk about what campaigns need to do now in a post-WSRP world. So with that, I'd like to bring in my good friend, Richard McQuarrie. Hey, Richard, how are you?
Good. Thank you for bringing me on, Chris. I saw your podcast last night. It was informative and funny at the same time. It was really good.
Well, I appreciate that very much. I think it was something that needed to be said. And I think that the sooner that everybody gets on the same page as far as the realities of what's going on versus the spin coming out of the WSRP, specifically out of Jim Walsh. And listen, I get it. I understand that Jim's got to spin it. He's the chairman. He's got to, he's got to make chicken salad out of chicken shit, and so to say. Which is pretty much all we got out of the WSRP convention, was just a bunch of chicken shit. And so they're trying to make some chicken salad over there, and I'm not sure that they're going to quite get there. I think that the evidence of the train wreck that is about to happen, or that is unfolding, I think it's too pervasive. I think the effects are too real, and I don't think that they're going to be able to spin it. What say you?
Yeah, no, well, I absolutely agree, and I've been saying it for a while. And I'll tell you, the financial woes of the WSRP were becoming a problem long before they went with Semi Bird.
Mm-hmm.
So that's to pin it all on one thing isn't fair. We have an issue with whoever it is that's doing fundraising at the WSRP, whoever's managing that, because they have been broke for some time. Mm-hmm. I've been monitoring it, and I don't see how they can effectively help any candidates. Let alone, our top tier candidates. I don't see, I'm concerned that they may not even be able to pay the rent.
Well, they'll be able to pay the rent, Richard. I mean, they've got over $1 million sitting in their federal account, but in their state accounts, they are hurting. That the fundraising challenge with the WSRP started about the same time that Caleb Heimlich resigned. And, people can say what they want about Caleb. Once we got through a really contentious primary in 2020, Caleb and I have had a very good, working relationship. In 22, I helped get him the Trump endorsement there for as state chairman again. And he's gone on to bigger and better things, and I wish him well. The challenges, however, really started with that switchover. Caleb was very, very good at fundraising. Unfortunately, Chairman Walsh is not, and so that presents some challenges for the party. And as a chairman, whether you're a candidate, whether you're a chairman, doesn't make a difference. If you're the guy or the gal sitting in the chair, you really have two primary jobs, and that's to shake hands and raise money.
Yeah.
Right. That's it. But that's it. And by shake hands, what I mean is to spread the brand, right? Spread the message. Talk about the narrative, spread the narrative, right? Shake hands and raise money. And the reason that you're shaking hands is so that you can turn around and raise money, right? So it really is a sales gig, being the chairman, being the candidate, being the guy in charge. And you can ask any state chairman, you can ask any county chairman, you can ask any candidate. No one's going to raise the money except for you. That is your job.
That is correct. Nobody can do that job for you. And
so
it's so important.
It is so important. So what's happening now, and this is a drum that I've been beating since before all of this stuff with the Bird campaign came down. I think, a month and a half ago, I was on the radio talking about trying to sound the alarm that, the Democrats, the Democratic Party of Washington, they have a lot more money. I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but I can tell you that spread was pretty big.
Yeah, I think it's over 5 times. Over 5 times the money.
At least.
Yeah, and it's and a lot of that money in the federal account that you mentioned, they do have over $1 million in the federal account. A lot of that is geared towards Joe Kent. So a lot of that was raised to go to Joe Kent. So they don't really have access to that money to make it liquid and to turn it over, because it's got to go where it was guaranteed to go to.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, legally they can't earmark it, right? But if the money comes in, then you're hoping to pass it through. I sure would be nervous if I was Joe. I would be nervous if I was any candidate that wants to have money passed through legally. That's the legal way to do it. There's nothing shady about it. That's just how the business is done. Yep. But there is no earmarking, right? You cannot earmark. And what makes it legal is the fact that there's no guarantee that the money will end up where candidates are hoping that it goes, right? So that's because there's no guarantees. That's what makes it legal. It's when you place that guarantee on there by earmarking, that's when you run into campaign finance violations. And you do not want to be on the wrong side of a conversation with the PDC or the FEC, because those typically don't turn out good for you. So let's unpack let's just take a race, just any race. Senate race. I mean, upper house, lower house.
Well, I'll start with the lower house of things that I'm worried about. Like, for example, we're trying to gain seats in the lower house. We are dangerously close to a supermajority by the Democrats, and a supermajority. If they get a supermajority in both the Senate and the House, it doesn't really matter if you have the governorship. I mean, it helps, but they can still push their agenda. And so I'll look at LD10, my hometown. We have 2 candidates running against Clyde Shavers to try and unseat him. Between the 2 of them, they have raised a grand total of $750. Just to talk about financial loss. Now, I know both of them. I like both of them, but I'm telling you that the issue we're seeing right now on the ground is people making the right financial decisions for their campaigns. And Dave Paul, who is also somebody that should be someone that we can remove and challenge, he doesn't even have an opponent. That could change come filing week, but filing week's a little late.
What position is Dave Paul in?
Dave Paul is also in the House. So I believe Clyde Shavers is position 1 and Dave Paul is 2. It might be backwards, but they both hold the 2 LD10 seats for the House.
What about state treasurer?
So for the treasurer for the state, we currently have no candidate that I've seen.
And so we have 1 in the land commission. We have 1 in for like the superintendent of schools. We've got 1 for. Do we have 1 for lieutenant governor? I don't think so. Do we?
Nope.
Not a credible one. No,
not a credible candidate. We have 2 candidates for commissioner of public lands though. That's Sue Keel Peterson, who she's got to raise funds. Sweet lady, I love her. I've had her on my show.
Sure.
And then we have Jamie Herrera Butler. And if she was to advance to the general, she might have a chance, but she's got to get through a primary. So
what about? Well, she has the money to do it, doesn't she?
Jamie Herrera Butler's very good at fundraising. So I'll have to check again where she's at. She's definitely outraised Sue Keel.
I think I saw the number somewhere around 300,000. That number sticks out of my head. I could be wrong.
Yeah,
but maybe
she always does well.
Pick that out. And then what about Secretary of State?
So for Secretary of State, it looks like a couple of people just dropped out. There was a couple of people who had gone in there. One was Bob Hagelin, which was the top performing Republican last time. He dropped out because I believe Dale Whitaker.
Okay, yeah, Dale Whitaker. That was the name I saw.
Was endorsed, and a couple of them who signed that pledge to the WSRP dropped out and endorsed him. So I don't know anything about that guy. I've spoken to him one time, and I don't know anything about his campaign, who's on his campaign, or he hasn't raised any money.
I'm going to throw you a curveball. So we're going to get off the track. I know we laid out at the beginning of the show what we were going to talk about during the show. So let's pivot to the just something, because you brought up something that it needs to be discussed. And just a fair warning at home, if the children are within earshot, you might want to either turn your volume down or put the kids to bed. So I don't have any idea why the party believes that it is a brilliant idea to endorse anyone in a contested primary at all for any reason. It makes no sense whatsoever, because all it does so it's, I understand their reasoning. They say, oh, well, we want to unite the party, right? It does not unite the party. All it does is cause division, because you've got a whole group of people that support one of the candidates. And
exactly.
And then and what you're doing is you're empowering delegates, 1,300 or 1,500 or 2,000 delegates at some state convention somewhere that don't represent the voice of the people.
Right. And it doesn't allow us to see the actual primary. So the reason we have primaries is so that we can determine which one of our candidates should go on to the general to win.
Thank you.
And what we also have is, I'll tell you why they made the decision. And a lot of people that I like very much were part of that decision. And I understood the idea of it. So we had a couple of issues. If you remember, in 2020, we had a couple of lieutenant governor candidates, and they stepped all over each other, and we ended up with 2 Democratic candidates on the ballot because Washington has a jungle primary. Sure. Top 2 vote getters, you're in. And we then had the same situation happen with Secretary of State.
Okay.
In the last election. So the Republican Party came up with the brilliant idea: let's endorse somebody and get behind them, and ask everyone else to drop out. So that way we only have one candidate, so we can guarantee that we get somebody up in the top 2.
I get it.
So I understand the strategy, but what they should have done that would have been more intelligent was, okay, we're gonna narrow it down to 2 or 3 candidates. And if you're not one of these 2 or 3 candidates, then we're going to ask you to step aside. You don't have to, but these 2 or 3 candidates are going to be our preferred candidates. I think that would have been a lot smarter. That would have kept the field narrower. But like, they've endorsed a candidate right now, and I'll tell you, we still have a primary. It's done nothing but tick people off.
So, okay. So let's back up. So what they're trying to do is ladies and gentlemen, they're trying to treat symptoms but not handle the root cause of the sickness.
Mm-hmm.
So the root cause of the sickness is that we have shit candidates that run in races, and we can't attract credible people to actually run. Now, the next question you might ask is, Chris, why wouldn't someone credible run as a Republican in Washington State? Well, the root cause of that is because the brand is shit.
Yeah.
No one credible. Why do you think people want to stay behind the scenes and support things behind the scenes, and they don't want their names associated with it? Because the brand is hot garbage.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It is.
That's why. And
putting an R next to your name doesn't do you favors in the state.
It does not. And we have had a crisis in the brand, because we've done nothing. There's been no brand continuity. There's been no narrative continuity. They just updated their branding after, I don't know, 20 years. Mm-hmm. Right? There isn't anything, like, they just don't do anything with any sort of level of credibility. Right? Now, if you go and you look at HROC's website, you go look at the SRCC's websites, both of those websites are locked on, dialed in. They look good. They're organized, squared away, whole 9 yards. Then you look at the WSRPs, and it looks like a fucking 3rd grader did it. Right? So I warned you guys to put the kids away. right? I've just got to tell you the truth. It looks like hot garbage. And so that isn't going to attract people. If we're going out to dinner and we see two restaurants sitting side by side, one of them has a cardboard cutout in the window that says, you know, Jim Bob's Famous Ribs, and the other one is a branded, nice, it's got people in there, the lights are on. Which one are you going into?
Yeah, the cleaner one that looks more professional.
100%, right? Because maybe they can cook some fucking ribs in there, right? We can't do anything in the WSRP. We can't find our ass with both hands tied behind our back at the WSRP. Now, let me tell you guys, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you what the purpose of the party is. The purpose of the party is not to pick winners and losers, not the purpose of the party. No, it is not. You can argue with me, but you would be wrong. The purpose of the party is to build the brand, to plow the field for your candidates, to recruit candidates, to fundraise, in other words, drive revenue so you can do those things, and then to viciously defend conservative values in the communities that you need to win races in.
That is exactly correct.
And that is what you do. It's not to pick winners and losers. It's not to jump up and down and cry baby. It's not to use the party as a leverage so you can gain personal notoriety like what we're seeing. It's not that. And the purpose of the party is to help the candidates and ultimately to defend the values of conservatives throughout the state and
Correct.
to plow the field.
And then also to have that ground campaign when you get to the general, they also are supposed to assist with that. Connecting candidates with volunteers, connecting candidates with known events. It's basically supposed to be like if we're in a battle and the candidate is the soldier on the ground, WSRP is supposed to be like air cover, right? Right. We're here to support your operation. We're not going to win the war in the air alone. We need you to do your job. We need you to fight, but we can provide that air cover, with, some help with your strategic thinking, some help in planning events, holding events for you, getting you connected with the right people. And then the only thing that has as far as fundraising for your campaign is if you raise the money. For example, if somebody maxes out to your campaign and somebody's like, hey, I've already maxed out this guy's campaign. He's the candidate. I'm going to donate it to the WSRP. The WSRP can then further assist that campaign. That's it. It is not their job to dial phones for you, which I have heard some people say, well, the WSRP, they're going to call people for my candidate and they're going to raise money. You are in for a rude awakening. Nobody's picking up that phone for you. All right.
So, they're not sending door knockers for you. And they're not doing all these other things for you because all of that takes money. All of that takes money. And I've had several conversations today with different financial backers of the WSRP, and they are all done. Not some of them, all of them. Every one of them I talk to is all done.
Yes, I'm seeing people. You had mentioned it in your last podcast. I laughed. You called it the bird strike. The plane is on fire. The engine's gone. And we are falling fast. Yeah, no, every single person and not just the big money donors, people who consistently donate moderate amounts of money are also bailing right now.
Right.
So you're right. It's all gone. It's not gone. It's not some of it, not even most of it. It's gone.
Yeah. So, obviously last night's podcast went around and some of Semi Bird's people, because they're jumping in the comments trying to say so now I just wanted to give you a heads up, Richard. Now that you're on my show, you are clearly a racist because I made a mention about ribs. So apparently because I made a mention about ribs, now we're talking about Semi Bird, which had nothing to do with anything, but that's just where their mind goes. And that's where all of this nonsense goes. This is just another example of why Semi Bird is a garbage candidate. He's been garbage from day one. He's dishonest. He's been a liar. He's a liar now. and he had no problem burning down the WSRP. So if you want to jump in my comments, you can jump in my comments. I don't give a shit. It doesn't.
We welcome
change
comments. Actually,
let me finish.
helps.
It doesn't. It does not. It does not change the fact that this guy laundered money, or that this guy committed a financial fraud at a banking institution. This guy has multiple financial and multiple criminal things in his background that he lied about. And didn't disclose. And you cannot excuse that. You cannot excuse that. And if you want to excuse it, you can. But I'm not going to give this guy a pass, because Washington Republicans deserve better. And if you don't think they deserve better, if you just want to be right, then you can fuck off, because it does not make a difference. What your opinion does not make a difference here. There are millions of families right now, ladies and gentlemen, millions of families that are going to get crushed underneath Bob Ferguson and the Democrats and the Democrat agenda in Washington state. And while you guys want to fuck around with some guy who lies to the bank, lies about different things, refuses to turn in his weapon, doesn't pay people, like, the guy is just, it doesn't matter if he's black or he's white. So don't bring that racist bullshit onto my page. Don't do it. This has nothing to do with this race. This has to do with the caliber of candidate that this guy is. And he's hot garbage. He should not be in the party. He should not be around the party. And the fact that he led a group of people to co-opt and destroy the brand, to burn it all down, is garbage.
Yeah.
Your reaction?
Well, and, my reaction is, I'm a little bit more forgiving than you are. I would have completely forgiven his past. I would have, and I would have helped him get past it had he been honest. The problem for me wasn't that something happened 30 years ago. I mean, none of us have perfect pasts, and I don't care
if it happened 40 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago. Don't fucking lie about it.
Exactly. He lied to the committee he asked to endorse him, and then when they tried to get the information out, what caused all the anger, he had that poor lady who had nothing to do with the decision, by the way,
right,
who was just giving the news.
Right.
She was scared. She was visibly scared. He had her shouted down. She couldn't have explained why they made the decision. And then what really ticked me off was he played the race card. He said, this isn't 1960. He's recorded saying it numerous times.
Right.
On video. And
Absolutely.
What that says to me is he's saying, you people are a bunch of racists for not allowing me to get endorsed, even though I lied to you.
Right. Because
you
the
lied
to everybody else except for Semi Bird. That's the thing.
And what really upset me was, I don't know if he knows, in the 60s, it was the Republican Party that got civil rights passed. It was the Republican Party that shot down Jim Crow laws. It was the Republican Party that is the party that ended slavery. We are the party that fought against that. So for you to say, because people held you accountable for your answer on their questionnaire, that you're a bunch of racists, it's cowardly. I don't like it. And it upset me. I'll tell you, I actually don't. I think Semi Bird's a great speaker. I don't have any personal animosity towards him, but don't play that game. Don't go there.
I'll be honest with you. I do, because he came in in November, and he tried to pick up what Lauren Culp and I built along with our fantastic team of people throughout the state. We built that movement in 2020. And then he rolled in along with several other people and tried to co-opt what we had built.
Yeah.
And then I told Lauren in August not to endorse this guy. Yeah. And he did. And I'm on the record for saying it. This guy doesn't have the juice, and he didn't even know what red flag laws were. Right. So these are just fundamental things that he's saying what he believes that people want to hear. And he doesn't have the goods. And that's my problem with it. And now we're in a situation. Let's talk a little bit about what campaigns need to do in a post WSRP world, because the WSRP is done. It's all done. I don't care what Jim says. I don't care what any of these other people say. It's all done because the money is drying up, and they're not going to be able to do the same things that they've done in the past, and they're not going to be able to help down ballot candidates. So, Richard, in your professional opinion, what do you think candidates need to do in a post WSRP world?
Well, one thing that I always tell candidates is you got to run your own race. Don't depend on other candidates, star power or anything else to help you out. So if you're thinking you want to go on tour with a governor candidate to give you star power, don't do it. What you need to do is you need to raise funds. The two things candidates need to do, I'll say there's three. One, you need to find somebody who knows how to run campaigns to be on your campaign. I'm seeing way too many brand new people get hired for these important races, and their hearts are good. I've spoken to these people. Their intentions are good, and they're hard workers, but they don't know what to do. So find somebody who's trained to do it. Number two, we've said it. You've got to raise funds. If you are not on the phone 6 hours a day, you're cheating yourself. And you're cheating your campaign. Take Sundays off. You can take Sundays off from fundraising, go to church. But if you are not on the phone 6 hours a day, you are not doing the things you need to win in the state. And then go to events. Go to events, put out your brand. And then as you put out your brand, as you said, that feeds right into, now I'm going to get on the phone and fundraise based off my brand. That's it. That is how you win elections. It's not super complicated. The complicated parts are why we have GCs like you out there, to find the right people to connect with and to strategize. But candidates don't even need to do that if they have the right person. Shake hands, raise money, find the right person to run your campaign.
So, do you support? I'm going to ask you a question. So I'm watching the comments as well. Do you support Donald Trump?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
Out of 1,000 times that Donald Trump is running against a Democrat, how many times are you going to vote for him?
How many was it? 1,000?
1,000.
100% of the time. So 1,000. So
I feel the same way. And I was on his staff in 2016.
I know you were.
And my wife is on the Trump team here in Nevada. So that's where we stand on Trump. Okay. Lauren Culp said that Semi Bird is a much better candidate and supports him. That's true. Lauren did say that. And I sent Lauren, you can ask him. I sent him a message at 1:30 in the morning this morning that corrected him. I said, Lauren, you are 10 times the candidate that Semi Bird is. And I know that as a fact, or I wouldn't have spent a year of my life in the trenches with Lauren Culp, out in the cold, out doing events in the rain where hundreds of people showed up in the rain to listen to a political campaign in the rain. Right.
And I'll tell you, we met because I was on the Matt Larkin campaign and you were on the Culp campaign. And I'll tell you, I knew Freed. You remember Joshua Freed? A lot of people don't because he lost really bad. I knew him from a while ago. So I was on the Freed camp because that was the guy I knew. And I was West Side, Culp was East Side. I hadn't really heard of him. When I went to the first Culp rally, and this was just before the primary, and it was it was either in LaConner or Conway or somewhere around there. I remember the crowd. I was just astonished. I got lost a few times in the crowd trying to find the place I was supposed to go to. And then I see him coming out of an airplane to land to talk to folks. I immediately said, "Oh, Joshua, you're done." So that came out of my mouth. Joshua's done.
Yep.
And those events were amazing. I spoke at a few of them for Matt Larkin. Culp and you were very gracious to let me do that. And I remember the crowds just being so elated to be there. And he generated it. You generated it. That was generated by the candidate. He didn't have to depend on a party event. And it wasn't, the people that were there were people that I don't see every day. Right? I mean, I see the PCOs in Island County every day or most days because we're all doing the same thing. That candidate, Lauren Culp, brought in people I never saw before and never saw again. So no, they aren't even remotely the same. And that's from the outside looking in.
Yep. Agreed. It's interesting that Semis has spoken to some large crowds. It's true. All of them have been at Republican events.
Yes.
All of them. Semi's never run his own campaign event, just Semi Bird, where thousands and thousands of people showed up.
I think the convention was his biggest event.
The what now? Oh, the convention. Absolutely.
Yeah. By
and
far.
That one had what, 2,000?
About 2,000.
So we did an event out in Graham where we had 3,500 twice.
In Graham.
Twice.
In Graham with a population that's not that significant.
And it was at a venue that was like way out, like you had to literally be going there. Like, you know,
Yeah.
and I was super nervous about having it out there because it was so difficult to find. But you know what? People found it. We've got video on it. It was awesome event. And then we decided it was so awesome we did it again. And we had just on Halloween night, we threw a Halloween rally and people came all dressed up. It was fantastic. You know, we were doing that all over the state in the middle of COVID.
Yeah, it was the most fun thing to go to. You guys were the only event in town that was worth going to, because when everybody else was scared. And also, Lauren, and this is to Lauren, I love you, man. I disagree with you on this one issue because you didn't just hold these great rallies. You also made people less afraid to see each other again.
Right.
You know, people in Washington State were terrified of each other. Even Republicans, some of them were wearing masks. They were scared that that's the person next to me is going to kill me. Lauren Culp brought us out of the, not the closet. God brought us out of the shadows. You know, brought us out of our homes.
Came out of the
closet. You know what I mean? He brought us out of our homes. He brought us together, and we were able to, meet people again. So he actually didn't just hold campaign rallies. He did a public service.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely, he did. So let me weigh in on this. What campaigns need to know do now in a post WSRP world. First of all, they need to get organized and they need to run really clean and lean campaigns. Okay,
Right.
that there's two hills that every campaign has to climb straight out of the gate. And every candidate, whether it's Dave Reichert, whether it's Semi Bird, whether it's Jim Bob that lives up the street that's running for school board, whether it doesn't make a difference, you've got to climb these two hills. Number one is fundraising. If you don't climb that hill first, then nothing else matters. And the second hill you have to climb is name ID, because it doesn't make a difference if you have money if nobody knows your name. And so that's where you should squarely be focused on. And, you know, taking all the personal stuff out, whether you like him, whether you don't like him, all these different things. The bottom line is that Semi hasn't raised the money. What you're going to see is within, and I'm watching his C3s. His C3s he's filing with the PDC. So there's 2 weeks. There's a 2-week window where you're going to see a bump from the convention. It'll be the convention bump, and we'll see how big of a bump it is.
Well, and also look at Reichert. I bet you he gets a convention bump too.
I bet he does too. So we'll see. We'll see what kind of bump they get respectively. But this nonsense about, you know, Semi's gonna, Semi's the candidate of the people, blah, blah, blah. So you got, let's say 2,000 people max. That's like less than 1/4% of the people. There's going to be 2.5 million people vote at least in the primary.
Well, yeah, and it's unfair for him to even take credit for that entire crowd because about 25% were for Reichert. So
that's exactly right.
Actually,
and
a little more than 25%.
Even rally hard to bring people there.
He didn't rally at all.
So we're in a big mess, right? Yeah. And so what campaigns need to do, focus on fundraising. Don't rely on your party, because your party is going to get squeezed. Even the county parties are getting squeezed because of this. You've got to find large dollar donors, or just people, a lot of small dollar donors, and you got to make the calls. You got to go shake the hands. The very first thing that you're going to need to do is make a top 200 list, right? And on that top 200 list, those are like your 3 a.m. people, right? That's your friends and family round. If we're building a business and we're doing an investment round, a first round is to raise as much money as you possibly can. And so straight out of the gate, you need to raise 90 days worth of expenses in your first 30 days.
Yes.
That's it. And all of it, by the way, it's my show. So I'm going to pitch my book. You go buy this book. It's on Amazon. Everything I'm saying is in this book. There's 66 pages on how to fundraise.
Yeah. And I am an owner of that book, and it's been fantastic in helping.
It shows everything that you need to do. Maybe somebody should send a copy to Semi.
Send it in August.
Yeah, because clearly he doesn't know how to run a show. It's all right here. Literally all the basics. So the first thing you need to do is make that, and make that list. Call them all. And the phone call is super simple. Hey, Richard, Chris Gergen, good to talk to you. Hey, listen, I don't want to give you a heads up. Eva and I were talking, and we prayed about it. We thought about it, and we've decided that it's a good idea for me to run for the House of Representatives or the State House. What do you think about that? And then you're going to say, oh, well, I think that's a great idea, blah, blah, blah. Say, well, Richard, I think I agree with you. I think it is a good idea. Listen, this is going to be about $100,000 lift. Can you help me with 500 of that? Or can you help me with 250 of that? Or can you help me with, $50 of that? Or can you help me with 1,000 of that? Or 500 of that? Exactly. So you make the ask, and then you shut up. Right. And then you say, and then they say yes or no. If they say no, say, listen, I totally understand. Times are tough. Bidenomics and all. Listen, if you had to help me today, how much could you do?
Exactly. That's a perfect pitch right there.
Yep.
And I think a lot of candidates are afraid to pick up that phone, especially new candidates. And I get it. It's hard. It's basically sales. And especially for police officers, former police officers, I found it's very difficult for them to pick up the phone because it go against their core to ask for anything. But understand that it's not for you. It's for the people to be able to change Olympia. We're electing you to fix this state, which is god awful broken. Yep. And it's not about you. So that's what you're doing. And don't be afraid to hear no. I heard no all the time. I was a candidate for local treasurer, and I broke the record for fundraising in Island County. And it was hard to make phone calls, and I heard no 12 times out of 15.
Yep.
Many of them were polite, but I heard a lot of no's. But the yeses you get, that's what matters. You just got to be on that phone.
That's exactly right. So there's a question here. I'm going to pitch this to you. I don't know. Can you see the screen? So Mary asks, please go over why Reichert does not need the WSRP endorsement.
Well, because the WSRP endorsement doesn't mean anything. It is a pep rally that is just like, hey, yeah, this group of people right here who were whipped, prefer this candidate. What actually matters is the primary. That's the poll that matters. So in August, the candidates who are running are going to run. Dave Reichert has the name recognition already. So if you're running that kind of uphill battle against somebody who's that well established in this community and in a good way, the WSRP doesn't have that much juice. And I'll tell you, the WSRP is not your commander. They do not get to order you who you're going to vote for. So that is why you don't need the WSRP endorsement. It's fun. It's fun to say you got it, but actually in this state might actually hurt you. So I don't know.
So let's say the WSRP was flush with cash, like they were sitting on millions of dollars and they had a cash advantage over the Democrats, all things being equal. Do you think the WSRP endorsement would matter at that point?
No, and let me tell you why. Because remember, the WSRP is all encompassing. So even if they're flush with millions of dollars, they don't just donate to one campaign. They've got multiple campaigns they've got to help with. And when they are flush with money, what they can do is run an effective machine to where they can actually get in touch with volunteers to get them in touch with the candidate and the campaigns. So even if they were flush with money, they're still not going to write a check to a governor candidate for $3 million.
You mean they're not? I mean, that's what they're saying online, that, the WSRP is going to come in and write Semi Bird checks of millions of dollars.
If Semi Bird gets more than 15 grand from the WSRP, I will be blown the hell away.
You know how much we got from the WSRP?
$0.
Zero. We got more money from Pierce County and Dave McMullen than we got from the WSRP.
Yeah. It's not that the WSRP isn't trying to do everything it can for the candidate that was endorsed. Jim Walsh has said that he plans on doing that. It's just not the way things are done. The WSRP does not donate directly to candidates most of the time, and neither does the RNC. I've heard people say, and it's come from people that have worked in the Byrd camp, that the Republican National Committee is going to jump in and support Byrd, and that maybe Donald Trump will come in and support Byrd. Let me tell you, no, they're not. They are not.
Right. Well, and that's, what's interesting is that Lauren Culp outperformed Donald Trump by about 400,000 votes in 2020.
Yes, he did. And I'll tell you what, no matter who the governor candidate is on the Republican side, whether it be Semi Bird or Dave Reichert, you are going to outperform Donald Trump in Washington State.
Right. He's just not a popular guy in Washington State.
It is what it is.
This isn't Texas.
Yeah, this isn't
Alabama. Right. This isn't Georgia. This isn't Florida. right? Washington State's a little bit tough, right? He's not even campaigning in the state and
No.
won't. Why would he? Why would he spend the
Yeah.
money to come to Washington when he's not going to win there?
And I'll be honest with you, we are in a blue state trying to convince them to go red this time.
Right.
Bringing Donald Trump, no matter how much you may love him, bringing Donald Trump to this state to your candidate would not do your candidate any favors. We got to be strategic, guys.
Unless it's
we
on
got
the
to be
east side.
strategic. Exactly.
Yep. Unless it's on the east side. All right, Richard, we're about out of time. Any parting words?
Well, for people that are running campaigns, I highly recommend they buy your book. One, so two, but two, make sure that you've got the right team, somebody who's run campaigns and won before, or at least come close before. This is a difficult state, so it's difficult for Republicans to win. But somebody who knows what they're doing. Make sure you're on that phone for 6 hours. If you are not on that phone for 6 hours, or don't at least have somebody on the phone for 6 hours, you are doing everything you can to lose. And make sure you're going to events. That's it. Yep. That's all you got to do to win. And don't say anything crazy, right? Like, don't say, this isn't 1960 because you don't support me and therefore you're racist. That would not help your campaign at all. Or
that red flag laws have to do with things that have to do with race.
Who said that?
Somebody did.
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. Don't say that.
Right. Yep. So that's just where we are. That's just where we are as a party. This is actually the last show I'm actually going to devote to Semi Bird. I'm not talking about him on my show anymore. We're going to be discussing other things throughout the state moving on. But just hopefully this show will, I don't know. I know it's got a lot of haters on here. Which I think is hilarious because I don't care. I genuinely don't care. There's a couple clowns on here that like to try to harass me. And I genuinely don't care.
I'll tell you, everyone, this is not meant to harm your candidate or to make things worse. We are trying to let you guys know that there are ways to win and there are ways to lose. And right now, the Republicans in Washington State are doing the things they need to lose. And we've got a pretty good record of losing.
Yep.
We're going to have to step outside our box and analyze why that is and then come together and fix it.
Yep. Agreed. All right, Richard, thanks for coming on. We'll have to have you back. And
yes.
If you guys haven't checked out Richard McQuarrie, he's also got a podcast going on, and he talks to candidates all over the state. So, Richard, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris. Always happy to be here. So, thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.